Hey there, explorers. Welcome back to Undercover Mysteries. Today we're taking a deep dive into two of the most heartbreaking and unforgettable cave tragedies. These stories are not for the faint of heart, so brace yourselves as we relive their final, desperate moments. Before we begin, make sure to subscribe to the channel. It really helps us stay motivated to bring you more stories just like these. As always, viewer discretion is advised. Nickajack Dam, built by the Tennessee Valley Authority, is one of several hydroelectric barriers that shape the Tennessee River. Behind it lies Nickajack Lake, a long, wandering stretch of water that coils for more than 200 miles through the Tennessee River Gorge. Not far from the dam is a cave that locals once called, simply, the Bat Cave. Nickajack Cave, quiet, remote, and draped in legend, sits about a mile east of the dam, hidden among the many caverns that dot Tennessee's landscape. Yet few caves carry a past as strange, as storied, or as haunting as this one. By the late 1800s, the cave was already drawing in curious visitors. In 1872, tour guides were ferrying guests inside on boats, showing them the vast darkness that swallowed sound and light. It was during these early years that one of the cave's most enduring tales emerged, an incident involving a guide named Lawrence Ashley. In 1927, newspapers such as the New York Times claimed that Ashley had vanished during an expedition, only to reappear a week later, insisting he'd clawed his way out nearly 8 miles away. The truth was less mystical. The story was a fabricated stunt meant to attract more tourists. But over time, the cave's fame shifted from hoax to something far more personal and profound. In 1967, Johnny Cash, broken, exhausted, and addicted, walked into Nickajack Cave believing it would be the last place he ever saw. Instead, he experienced what he later described as a spiritual awakening deep inside those chambers. That moment became a turning point. He walked out, determined to rebuild his life and leave his dependents behind. By 1980, the TVA sealed off the cave, declaring it a sanctuary for thousands of endangered Indiana bats. Fences were installed, warnings posted, and entering became a federal violation. But even with signs and strict penalties, the cave remained irresistible to thrill seekers. And for those who ventured in without proper cave diving experience, the consequences could be fatal. Cave divers followed two unbreakable rules: never enter without training, and never, ever go in without a guideline to find your way back. This is where David's story begins. David, 31 years old and from Alabama, was the kind of person who felt most alive outdoors, hiking, fishing, anything that pushed him deeper into nature. Recently, he had fallen in love with scuba diving. But David wasn't the type to stay within safe limits. He liked challenges, risks, the rush of going farther than most. So when a friend mentioned Nickajack Cave and the local stories of enormous catfish living inside, fish supposedly fattened by bat droppings, David became obsessed. The idea of spearing one of these legendary creatures was too tempting to ignore. The only catch, the cave was fenced off, strictly protected, and notoriously dangerous. His friend warned him again and again. This wasn't just trespassing, this was gambling with your life. The water was murky, unpredictable, and unforgiving. But to David, danger wasn't a warning, it was an invitation. They explored the area 3 times together, each trip taking them deeper into the restricted zone. And finally, David decided he was ready for the real attempt. The night of August 15th, 1992, would be the night he went after the legendary catfish once and for all. That evening, David and his friend slipped past the barrier and entered the water, dive lights cutting only thin traces through the darkness. The previous night, David had nearly speared a massive catfish before losing it. That near miss only fueled him. Inside the cave,
The water cleared slightly, but the environment was no less hazardous. They swam deeper, weaving through narrow rock passages, keeping track of their direction by following the trail of their bubbles along the ceiling. But the deeper they went, the more uneasy David felt. When he checked his air gauge, his stomach dropped. His supply was running dangerously low. He signaled to his friend that it was time to head out. They turned to ascend and slammed into solid rock. What should have been open water was now an unexpected ceiling. In one moment, they realized the truth. They were no longer in the same passage they had entered from. They were lost inside a submerged maze. Fear thickened the water around them. Their fins kicked up clouds of silt, blinding them instantly. Zero visibility, no reference point, no way to tell where the exit was. In the growing panic, the two got separated. David's friend, by sheer luck, swam in the right direction and burst out of the cave. David didn't. He found himself trapped in a small pocket of air, suspended in blackness, with no idea where he was or how to escape.
His friend didn't waste a second. He contacted TVA security, and within minutes, officials launched a massive response. But they weren't preparing for a rescue, they were preparing for a recovery. In their eyes, David was almost certainly gone, either drowned or slowly suffocating in a shrinking bubble of air. And the dive teams on site, though skilled, weren't trained for cave rescues. Cave diving is a world of its own, one that takes years to master. Without the right experience, even seasoned divers can die. The situation seemed hopeless until someone else arrived. Buddy Lane, a cave rescue specialist from Chattanooga, had been navigating dangerous caverns since he was a teenager. When he heard what was happening at Nickajack Cave, he believed David might still be alive. But when he volunteered to help, officials turned him down at first. The risk was too great, they argued. They couldn't afford to lose another diver. Hours passed. No progress. And finally, with options running out, authorities relented and let Buddy take over. Buddy and his lieutenant, Dennis Curry, entered the cave with the calm precision of experts who truly understood the danger. They moved through the submerged tunnels, calling David's name into the dark. Then, faintly, a reply echoed back. "Hey." It was barely a sound, just enough to tell them he was alive. They followed the voice and found David floating in a tiny chamber, exhausted, barely conscious, and clinging to life after 17 hours trapped in the cave. His air pocket had been shrinking, starving him of oxygen. Hypoxia was moments away. Buddy and Dennis carefully guided him through the labyrinth, inch by inch, until they finally surfaced in open water. When David emerged into daylight, the crowd on the shore erupted. Against every expectation, he had survived one of the most terrifying ordeals imaginable. Morris Betzold was small for 15, 5'7", barely 110 pounds, all elbows, knees, and restless energy. He and his older brother, Donald, had bounced between foster homes and the Methodist Children's Home in Cleveland ever since their parents split a decade earlier. The cave sat on a sandstone bluff a few miles from the home. The entrance was a low, jagged mouth 15 feet wide and 4 feet high that dropped almost immediately into a cold, wet crawl. Locals knew it mostly as a place to drink beer in summer or tell ghost stories in fall. Deeper inside, the stories got darker. Hideout for 1800s outlaws, rumored underground railroad stop, the kind of cave where people disappeared if they were stupid enough to go far. Morris didn't care about the stories. He cared that it was pitch black, damp, and absolutely nowhere near adult supervision. Perfect for a cigarette. He'd gone in a few times with friends, always with a flashlight, always nervous, always promising himself this would be the last visit. Then, on October 5th, 1965, the home organized a field trip to Schönbrunn Village. The bus got a flat tire. The teachers improvised.
We'll go to Wildcat Cave instead." When Morris heard that, something electric shot through the group of boys. They knew exactly what this meant. They parked at the base of the bluff. The teachers sensed the sudden buzz and kept a sharper eye than usual, but 16 teenage boys, or a force of nature. Morris and two friends broke away the moment the group started up the rocky path. They scrambled ahead, found the dark mouth of the cave, crouched, and crawled inside. The entrance tunnel was tight, cold, and smelled of wet stone and earth. Morris's friends were smaller. They slipped through the narrowing passages like eels. Morris, a little taller, a little broader in the shoulders, had to twist and contort. Sharp sandstone sliced his forearms. His jacket snagged and tore. The light from the entrance faded fast. Soon it was only the weak beam of a cheap flashlight and the sound of his own breathing echoing back at him.
He lost his friends almost immediately. Their voices bounced weirdly off the rock. He couldn't tell which direction they'd gone. He shouted. No answer that made sense. Panic flickered in his chest. He turned to head back the way he came, only the passage he thought was the exit narrowed into a slot he didn't remember. He pushed forward anyway, faster now, heart hammering. The flashlight beam jittered across wet walls that pressed closer and closer. He found himself in a dead-end chamber. At the far end was a vertical crack between two massive boulders, barely 10 inches wide, slick with seepage. Beyond it, he thought he saw a flicker of space, maybe another way out. He didn't hesitate. He went in head first, arms pinned to his sides, wriggling downward like a worm. Halfway through, one of the boulders shifted. Just an inch, but it was enough. The crack cinched tight around his ribcage. He tried to exhale everything in his lungs to shrink himself smaller. It didn't help. He was tilted 45 degrees downward, head lower than feet, blood rushing to his skull. The rock gripped him like a stone fist. He screamed. The sound died 2 feet away, swallowed by sandstone. Only his feet stuck out into the chamber behind him, twitching uselessly. His friends made it out 20 minutes later and realized Morris wasn't with them. They told the teacher, Mr. William Powell. Powell was built almost exactly like Morris, small enough maybe to fit. He grabbed a belt, crawled in with the two boys, and after 20 agonizing minutes of squeezing, found Morris's ankles protruding from the crack. He looped the belt around them and pulled with everything he had. Morris inched upward, then the belt snapped. Morris dropped hard, his face smashing into rock. Blood poured from a new gash on his cheek. He screamed again, a sound that carried pure animal terror. Powell had no choice. He backed out and called for help. The first firefighters to arrive took one look at the entrance crawl and knew none of them were getting through. They were big men built for ladders and hoses, not sandstone keyholes. They sent the smallest rescuer they had in to sit with Morris and keep him awake. Every few minutes, the man would shout, "Morris, you still with me, buddy? Talk to me." When Morris went quiet too long, the rescuer banged rocks together and yelled anything he could think of just to get a groan in response. Outside, the hillside filled with people. 200 rescuers, reporters, relatives, spectators. Portable generators roared. Floodlights turned night into noon. Someone piped oxygen through a hose. Someone else dragged in electric heaters. The temperature inside the cave hovered just above freezing. Morris wore only a thin nylon jacket and jeans. Hypothermia was coming for him faster than suffocation.
They tried pulleys, hooks around his ankles. Nothing moved him more than an inch before he slid back. Contractors offered to drill 36 feet of sandstone. Geologists said the roof would collapse and bury him. Someone suggested dynamite. Everyone else shouted that down instantly. Night fell. National television picked up the story. Radio stations begged for little people who might fit. A 5'2" nurse from Akron wriggled in as far as she could, 5 feet from Morris, and spent 3 hours talking to him, telling him about her kids, anything to keep him conscious. Morris was upside down so long his face swelled purple. He vomited from the blood pooling in his head.
He cried, he prayed, he bargained with God. He thought about his brother Donald and knew he would never see him again. On the morning of October 7th, a Cleveland man named Andrew Ulrich was driving to work listening to the latest failed rescue attempt when the announcer said they needed someone small but strong enough to reach the boy. Ulrich thought of his two teenage sons, Mike and Jerry, skinny, long-armed, fearless. He turned a car around, picked them up, and drove straight to the cave. Mike was 15, same age as Morris. He talked the fire chief into letting him try. They tied ropes around his waist, handed him straps and a metal clamp, and in he went. It took Mike almost an hour to worm his way to the crack. When he finally reached Morris, hanging there like a broken doll, he managed to get a strap around one leg. The team outside pulled. Morris moved 2 inches. Then Mike went in a second time, got a second strap around the other leg, another pull. Morris's hips came free. He screamed with joy and pain in equal measure. But his chest was still clamped, his right arm pinned beneath him. Breathing was almost impossible. Mike went in a third time, and a fourth. Each trip he gained another inch, another strap, another desperate tug. At one point, Mike slipped and tumbled headfirst into the darkness beside Morris. Rescuers hauled him out, bruised but alive. He went right back in. Finally, after 26 hours, enough straps were in place. Mike reached in with his bare hands, grabbed Morris under the armpits, and with the entire rescue squad pulling behind him, they dragged the boy out of the crack, inch by agonizing inch. Morris came free all at once, limp, bleeding, half-conscious, but alive. The crowd outside erupted. Grown firefighters wept openly. Someone wrapped Morris in blankets and carried him into daylight for the first time in more than a day. He blinked against the sun like he'd been born again.